This 8-speed automatic transmission swap is exploding right now. People are putting this into everything. Classic muscle cars, S2000s, drift builds, drag cars, even Mazda Miatas and giant 4x4s too. And there's a reason it's taking over. Everyone who does this swap says the same thing. Their car suddenly feels like it picked up 50 to 100 horsepower without touching the engine. And yes, I'm going to show you exactly why that happens. But here's the part that nobody's talking about. This transmission also has 17 game-changing features that no other swappable automatic has, including 5 that I've never seen on any transmission. And before you start thinking it sounds too good to be true, I'll also explain the one downside and why I honestly don't think it's actually a downside at all. The number one reason why you need to 8HP swap your vehicle is it has 8 speeds. But you may be thinking, what does that really mean for my vehicle? Does an 8-speed transmission really have any benefits? Yes, having 8 speeds has 3 huge benefits, and 2 of them will actually make your car faster. First, the 8HP has more aggressive first and second gears, which give your vehicle much better off-the-line acceleration. Second, this transmission has a double overdrive with a taller 8-speed gear that gives your vehicle lower RPM freeway driving, which is easier on your engine, plus quieter and more relaxing for you, and even gets better miles per gallon so you save some money. Finally, an 8-speed transmission has a smaller gap between gears to better keep the engine in the rev range. And this smaller gear gap has 3 additional benefits. The engine can operate closer to its peak RPM more often, especially after an upshift. 2, there's less shift shock and a smoother transition between the gear shifts because the gears are closer. This is less likely to disturb the chassis when cornering. This is important whether upshifting or downshifting. And third, with 8 speeds, the transmission can almost always downshift for better acceleration, and that makes your car feel more powerful and responsive. I have a 108-page ebook on how to swap this transmission into any car. More information at the end of this video. Number 2, shift speed. As you can see, a stock 8HP shifts in 0.2 seconds, faster than all other stock transmissions except the DCT. But you can actually tune your 8HP to shift just as fast as a DCT if you want. Yes, I know you drag racers can get these old school transmissions to shift faster by greatly increasing the line pressure, but this causes the trans to slam into gears, making it super uncomfortable for street use, and that's why people only use them for racing. The beauty of the 8HP is it has 8 shift modes, so you can go from slower, smooth luxury car shifts to lightning fast race shifts, and you can change this while driving with the push of a button. More on the 8 modes coming up. I personally will always prefer a manual, but as you can see, the 8HP is much faster than a manual. I'm just saying, if you want to go automatic or have a racy track day ready transmission, the 8HP is the best swap there is. You may be wondering at this point, if this transmission is for real and so great, how come I've never heard of it? That's because it only came out in 2009 and was only really used in large numbers around 2015. Around that time, all Chrysler V6 and V8 rear-wheel drive cars and trucks started using this transmission. Chargers, Challengers, Ram trucks, Durangos, Jeep models, even Hellcats. Yes, every single Hellcat car or truck ever made uses this 8HP transmission. The Hellcat models actually get an even stronger version of the transmission that's coming up. It took a few years for these transmissions to show up for cheap in junkyards, and a few more years for companies to create controllers so you can swap it to work into any vehicle, but it's out now and rapidly gaining popularity. This is how to read the 8HP transmission coding. There are actually currently around 10 different transmission codes in the different generations and torque ratings. There's the 8HP 50, 8HP 70, 8HP 90, etc. The main thing to know is that the 8 is the number of speeds and the 70 is the torque rating. You should know that ZF makes the 8HP transmission. ZF is a 100-year-old German transmission company with headquarters in southern Germany. ZF actually made the very first 6-speed manual in 1920, the first 5-speed automatic in 1991, the first 6-speed automatic in 1999, and the first 9-speed automatic in 2011. Most ZF 8HP transmissions are made in Germany, but the Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep versions are made in the US under license from ZF. I'll show you later why 15 different car companies are using this transmission. I think you will be shocked. You may even have this transmission in your daily driver already and not even know it. The number 3 reason to 8HP swap, it handles big power. The main transmission that most of you will probably want to use is the 8HP 70. As you can see, it can handle a lot of power. ZF officially rates the transmission to handle 700 Newton meters of torque, which is about 516 pound-feet. This is a very conservative number. Most 8 HP users and experts will tell you that the real-world torque and horsepower numbers are more like 700 horsepower and 800 pound-feet. Above 800 pound-feet, and it's best to do a few upgrades as some slipping can occur. Luckily, the 8 HP is very easy to open up and modify. But there are many stories of racers constantly running 1,000 horsepower or more. If you know anyone who may be interested in this transmission for their project vehicle, I ask that you please share this video. The bigger the channel gets, the more I can continue to create this type of helpful information. You don't need to take my word for it on the power handling of the 8 HP transmission. It's already handling serious power from the factory and is currently used in some very powerful and heavy vehicles. The 807 horsepower Hellcat Red-Eye Jailbreak, the 702 horsepower and almost 7,000 pound Ram 1500 TRX, and more. Those vehicles use the heavy-duty 8 HP 90 series, which can handle 1,200 horsepower stock, but 99% of you only need the 8 HP 70 from the standard V8 Dodge models. But you can't just take a Dodge Charger transmission and put it in your car and expect it to work. Everything is computer controlled these days. That's where the Turbo Lammet controller comes in. I don't want to bore you with the details. It's all in my ebook, but more on that is coming up, of course. It gets even better. This is one of the coolest features of the 8 HP. So you know how a regular automatic just shifts? Well, the 8 HP has different shift modes. You can use a knob to switch between 8 different shift modes, and you can change these shift modes at any time, even while driving. The 8 shift modes include 2 fully automatic modes, one for comfort and one for sporty driving. Then there are also 5 manual modes, a comfort mode for smooth manual shifts, then a sport and sport plus for faster and more aggressive shifting. In these 3 modes, the transmission will upshift and downshift if you forget. Then there is a special launch control mode and a full manual mode where the transmission will only shift when you tell it to shift. And finally, a mode for when you're on a chassis dyno. What's even cooler is that these shift modes are totally customizable too. You can set the shift RPM, shift speed, shift firmness, launch control RPM, and so much more. This is all possible because the aftermarket has cracked the code of this transmission. The 8 HP has essentially been hacked and is now totally controllable by an aftermarket transmission controller. The dedicated launch control mode is just like a new Porsche or Ferrari. You press and hold the brake pedal, that tells the transmission you may want launch control. Then press and hold the gas pedal and the transmission will tell the ECU to hold the engine RPM at the RPM level that you set. The transmission then keeps the converter unlocked while revving. When you release the brake pedal, the transmission locks the converter and the car launches. It's all totally customizable too, but it currently does require a compatible factory or aftermarket ECU to use this feature. The best part is the transmission knows it's in launch mode, so it automatically uses full line pressure, which prevents the clutches from being damaged, and it makes the 1-2 shift as fast as possible. Reason number 5, gearing. This is why the 8 HP is so good at making your car faster. It's called the overall gear ratio, and most people have never even heard of this calculation. A car's overall ratio basically decides whether your car feels like a rocket ship or a snail. The overall ratio is simple. It's the transmission gear multiplied by the rear axle ratio. To show you how insane the overall ratio in your car could be with an 8-speed transmission swap, let's compare a C5 Corvette with a 4-speed automatic versus 2 8-speed transmission vehicles, a new C8 Vet, which has a DCT, and then a 1960s muscle car with the 8 HP 70 swap. As mentioned, an aggressive overall first gear ratio will launch hard off the line, and taller freeway ratios for cruising keep RPM down and make your freeway driving smoother. I'm about to show you, the 8 HP gives you both. So the C5 was really considered the first modern Corvette, but check out its overall gear ratios. It had a 4-speed automatic with a traditional first gear ratio of around 3:1 and a pretty standard axle ratio of 2.73:1. Now look at the C8 Corvette. The modern DCT has 8 speeds, same as the 8 HP. But notice the overall ratio in first gear is 14.22 versus the Vet's 8.35. This means that the new C8 will pull way harder in first gear, and it would even if it had the same power as the C5. Now let's take a look at the 8 HP swapped older car. I'll use my 68 Camaro as an example. The 8 HP has a 4.71 first gear ratio. My Camaro has a very conservative 3.08 axle ratio. but look at the overall ratio. It's about the same as a modern C8 Corvette. What this means is my car will pull much harder off the line than it would with an older 3 or 4-speed Autobox. Notice too that with the 8 HP 70 transmission, my 68 Camaro has an overall ratio in second gear that is even lower than the first gear of the C5 Corvette. So assuming a lot of you have a 3 or 4-speed right now, imagine this, 8 HP 70 in your car, second gear will pull even harder than first gear does in your car right now. So imagine what those first gear launches would be like. And then look at the overall freeway gear ratios. They are about the same. So you get amazing off-the-line acceleration with no compromises to freeway cruising. Number 7, because the 8 HP comes in 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large, there is an 8 HP to fit in any rear-wheel drive vehicle. For most American and high-powered cars, the medium-size 8 HP 70 is probably the best. But if you have a smaller car, consider the 8 HP 45 or 8 HP 50. These are the most common small frame versions and are quite a bit smaller and have already been swapped into Mazda Miatas, Honda S2000s, and even an original Mini Cooper. The heavy-duty and larger 8 HP 90 and 95 versions are quite rare and much more expensive. These are a bit larger in every dimension, but only about 15 pounds heavier. The length of the different 8 HP sizes varies depending on which specific vehicle application and whether it is a 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive version of the transmission. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this kind of detailed information. No AI clickbait slop at Auto Guild, just expertly researched, helpful information. Consider subscribing too. I have lots of videos like this. When 8 HP swapping, there are many different shifter options. Most prefer a used OEM BMW or Dodge shifter for about $50. If using the BMW or Dodge shifter, the Turbo Lemma controller in my book will plug directly into the shifter and retains all the functionality of the new shifter: park, drive, sport mode, manual shifting, etc. There is a DCT branded shifter, not to be confused with a DCT transmission. It's an aftermarket option that acts like a sequential shifter: pull back to upshift and push forward to downshift. Remember, the 8 HP is a fully automatic transmission, so you only use this shifter when you want to shift manually. Just cruising around town, you can leave it in auto, but you can hit this shifter at any time, no matter what mode you're in, and it'll shift for you. This shifter can be put in the stock location of a manual shifter to make the car look factory. Most people will think it's a manual transmission. Same thing with the steering wheel paddles. You can add them to any vehicle and only use them if you want. You can use them all the time or some of the time. It's up to you. Number 9, rev matching or throttle blipping. When driving aggressively, whether it's on track or a deserted road, it's important that the chassis of the vehicle is stable. By rev matching your downshifts, you prevent the engine braking from suddenly slowing the vehicle down. This prevents the car's chassis from getting unsettled, ensuring that all forced tires stay planted to the ground. The 8 HP transmission combined with the right ECU can do this. An old school 3 or 4-speed automatic transmission cannot do this. The 8 HP is now used by almost every automaker. This is why they are so easy to find and affordable to buy. From mainstream brands like Dodge, Jeep, and Toyota to luxury brands like BMW, Audi, and Land Rover. Even super premium brands like Bentley, Rolls-Royce, and Aston Martin use it. The 8 HP is so good that back in 2018, BMW switched to the 8 HP transmission and stopped using DCTs in almost all of its vehicles. Why do you need a dual clutch transmission when the 8 HP is smaller, lighter, and shifts just about as fast? It's also popular with luxury and performance manufacturers because it has a reputation for making cars faster and more efficient. But its reliability and bulletproofness is also legendary. If you are not a drag racer, you can skip to number 11. If you are a drag racer, then your transmission is here. The 8 HP provides the following 6 benefits to drag racers that no other transmission provides: faster shifts, customizable launch control, built-in trans brake, 2-step rev limiter, sequential shifting, which again, as I said, is optional, and bump shift for easy staging. Number 11, what is a virtual clutch? It's something only the 8 HP has. Some 8 HP swappers keep a clutch pedal even though the 8 HP is a fully automatic transmission. That's because the 8 HP has an electronic lock-up clutch that is built into the torque converter, and it can be used as a traditional clutch. In launching, drag racing, or drifting, the virtual clutch gives an extra level of control similar to a manual transmission. In drifting, this is typically used to initiate a drift with a clutch kick, but it can also be used to rev the engine when launching to build boost. This virtual clutch, as some call it, is totally optional. Leave it off or install it if you want. Even if installed, you only have to use it when you want. Totally optional to install and totally optional when and if you want to use it. Otherwise, the transmission behaves just like a normal automatic transmission. Number 12, smooth shifts. The 8HP can also do buttery smooth shifts if you want it to. After all, it comes in many luxury vehicles. Mode 1 in the drive selector shifts just like a normal new car. Leave it in mode 1 when you just want to cruise. Number 13, did you know that transmissions have parasitic power loss? That's the power you're losing inside the transmission and torque converter through heavy gears and clutches, fluid drag, and slippage. Manual transmissions have less drag because they have a direct clutch link, but a torque converter automatic always wastes more energy in pushing the fluid around. But newer automatic transmissions are much more like a manual and better at minimizing this power loss. In fact, the magic of the 8HP is it robs very, very little power. Compared to the old TH400 or 4L80E, the 8HP has a modern pump design, fewer and lighter internal components, tighter tolerances, and improved oil flow and pressure management. So what does this all mean? People who have already swapped this transmission report that their car feels like it has 50 to 100 horsepower more, some even saying 150 horsepower more. But it's not just less power loss through better design, it also has a unique torque converter. Most modern automatic transmissions were equipped with a lockup clutch. This has been true since around the mid-80s. But what's really unique about the 8HP though is its unique torque converter locks up at a super low 1200 RPM, and its lockup capabilities are much smarter and flexible. It can lock up as low as 5 or 10 miles an hour, where the old transmissions usually locked around 50 miles per hour. Since the torque converter is almost always locked, it is much more efficient and makes the car feel more lively and responsive since it has a direct connection to the engine just like a manual or DCT transmission. One more thing before we talk about the 8HP's downside. Number 15, for those of you who like to run a very aggressive lopey camshaft that makes its power mostly at high RPM, then you probably know that to get the most out of that camshaft, you need a high stall torque converter that slips. This slipping torque converter allows the engine to rev to a higher RPM before it moves the car. This allows the engine to get into its power band quickly, giving you more acceleration. You can see here that a typical high stall converter is slipping below 3500 RPM. With the 8HP, a high stall torque converter is usually not needed for two reasons. Number one, first gear is a super aggressive 4.71, so the engine does not bog at low RPM when starting in first gear off the line like it would with the 4L80's super lame 2.48 to 1 first gear. And two, the 8HP locks up at a super low 1200 RPM as I just showed you. This makes the engine and trans really respond because there is a direct connection. A high stall torque converter is a huge compromise and genuinely terrible with many downsides. All the slipping of that high stall converter generates more fluid heat. This heat shortens transmission life, and the slipping transmission always feels mushy and unresponsive at low speeds. At off idle and part throttle, tons of power is wasted in the slipping so your car feels slow. Plus, it's harder to tow with a high stall converter as it often reduces low speed pulling power and control. And aftermarket performance converters often have other problems like shuddering or noise. Another downside is slipping transmissions get terrible fuel economy, and a high stall converter requires bigger coolers to minimize all that heat buildup. Of course, if you are building a dedicated drag car, then you can also swap in a high stall converter into an 8HP. They are available, but generally it is not needed due to the super low first gear ratio. Don't buy a high stall converter and use the money to swap a 8HP instead. There is a reason brand new fast cars don't use high stall converters. They suck. An 8HP swap avoids all of these issues. Yes, the 8HP is more expensive to swap right now, but let's compare. Most of you just want a fast car. Here are your transmission options. Number one, throw in a tired junkyard 3 or 4 speed with no upgrades. This is the cheapest, but offers low performance and often poor reliability, especially if using a 30-year-old used transmission. Your second option is a built 4L80 swap. But this costs almost as much as the 8HP70, and you still have an old, heavy, slow transmission with only 4 speeds. And of course, a T56 Magnum is always a good choice, but it's even a bit more expensive than the 8HP since you can't really find these used. But an 8HP swap will actually pay for itself, so the higher cost does not matter, and it actually pays for itself in two different ways. The first way that 8HP pays for itself is through increased fuel economy. I know most of you don't care about this. I don't care either really, but I do care about saving money and going fast, and the 8HP does both. Imagine saving so much in the cost of fuel that you get an 8HP transmission for free. Hear me out. Here are 3 real-world examples. In 2012, the Dodge Charger went from a 5-speed auto to an 8HP 8-speed. Its city MPG went up 1 miles per gallon and its highway went up 4 miles per gallon. The 2014 Durango gained 2 highway MPG and the Dodge Ram gained 1 city and 2 highway. But these are switching from 5 and 6-speed transmissions to an 8-speed. What if you are switching from a 3 or 4-speed like many of my classic car and LS swap viewers have? The savings going from a 3 or 4-speed to the 8-speed will be much better. Let's say you have a turbo hydromatic 400 in your car now and you switch to an 8HP transmission. This could save you 4 miles per gallon. As you can see, in 1 year, even if you only drive your car a little bit, you could save $335. $1,000 in 1 year if you drive a lot. And 4-speed drivers save too, between $268 and $803 per year, assuming a 3 mile per gallon gain. These are potential 1-year savings. As you can see, this transmission can actually make you money if you plan to keep your car a long time or put a decent amount of miles on it, like doing summer road trips. If you have a 4-speed and drive the US average of 10,000 miles per year and keep your car for 10 years, this transmission could potentially save you $5,000. The second way that 8HP can save you money, or maybe even make you money again, is resale value. Imagine 2 classic cars, or any desirable car or truck really, with identical specs. One has an old school slow and heavy 4L80, and the other has a modern 8HP 8-speed with 8 shift modes and more aggressive gearing, so it's faster. As we saw, the 8HP is about $1,000 to $2,000 more to swap than a built 4L80. I would pay $2,000 more for this one at least. I would probably pay $3,000, $4,000, even $5,000 more for the car on the right. What do you think an 8-speed 8HP 70 swap is worth? Let me know in the comments below using these cars as an example. Just know that when and if you sell your car, you will get your money back at least, and maybe even more money than what you spent for this transmission. Currently, almost half the cost of this transmission is in the transmission controller. The 8HP Trans itself is actually cheaper to buy than a 4L80 because very few people know about this swap yet. All the costs associated with this transmission swap will come down as more and more people and aftermarket companies step in to support it. Latest prices for these things are in my ebook. Yes, it does cost more, but the 8HP makes your car faster and it can do things that other transmissions cannot. And on top of all that, it has the potential to actually pay for itself. No other transmission can do that. If you are ready to make your car faster, more customizable, and more valuable, consider swapping an 8HP transmission today. This ebook took me 400 hours to research and write and is available to download for only $30. The way I do all my ebooks is that I update them constantly and all future updates are free, so any new tech or products or information will always be added to this ebook. When the new version is out, it is automatically emailed to you at no cost. Does your ride need an LS swap, or do you just want to learn more about the LS engine, or maybe do a swap one day? I want you to know that my 250-page LS Swap Survival Guide ebook is here and is available now to download at autoguild.com. You may be wondering, is it any good? No, it's amazing. See the testimonials from viewers like you who have already bought my book and are using it right now. This book will save you time, money, and headaches. All ebooks are available at autoguild.com. Links to all ebooks in the description too. If your car runs hot, or you just want to eliminate overheating worries, there's another new swap gaining popularity: installing a modern brushless cooling fan in your classic or older car. These fans have no downsides. They're way more powerful, more efficient, quieter, and cheaper. Brushless fans are relatively new to the market, and until recently, there weren't affordable controllers for them. Now there are, and I found a powerful, budget-friendly controller that makes this an easy upgrade. I'll never build another car without one of these fans, and after you see the video, you'll understand why. Used OEM brushless fans cost far less than aftermarket setups, so the $25 price of this ebook could save you hundreds of dollars while giving you the best cooling system possible. Powerful, efficient, and completely customizable. Thank you for watching Auto Guild, and good luck with your project.